Welcome to Monday. It's Recovery Monday. Today, Dennis tells us about what his life was like, what happened, and what his life is like now. Today. Good afternoon. It is a gorgeous day here across Iowa. And of course, we did get a little snow over the weekend. Hopefully you didn't mind that too much. If you did, I'm sorry. I happen to love this time of year. Of course, I don't have to shovel anymore either, so that probably makes a difference. But we appreciate you being here. This is Recovery Monday, brought to you by Powell, CDC, and Lila is not here today. She had something come up. She just called a little bit ago. She's fine. Nobody's hurt. Nothing's broken. Nothing's bleeding. She just had something come up. So today, Bob Montserrat, the Cat in the Hat, and I, along with Ryan, will introduce you to a man by the name of Dennis Leiden. And Dennis has put the plug in the jug, as we like to say, for 13 months now?
Correct.
Dennis, how are you?
I'm just great.
Nice to have you here. Thanks for being here.
Glad to be here.
I always tell people that I believe that there's something that you're going to say today that God will use to help somebody else.
I hope so.
Yeah, that's our plan here. So, Dennis, tell me where home is.
Home is right here in Des Moines.
All your life?
All my life.
Born and raised?
Born and raised on the east side.
What school did you graduate from?
Dowling High School.
Dowling High, okay. Mm-hmm. So you're a recovering Catholic.
Exactly.
There you go.
Yes.
And when did you take, what was alcohol your drug of choice?
Yes.
And when did you take your first drink? Do you remember it?
Well, I do as a small child. Took sips of beer out of my dad's beer sitting on his lap. But I always tell people it was in the sacristy of Visitation Catholic Church when I got caught chugging altar wine.
Wow.
As a altar boy.
Yeah, I was an altar boy too, so I remember that.
Kid. I remember it vividly. Father Conley, Monsignor Conley, came in and caught I and another guy at 6 a.m. in the morning. Were
you drinking out of the jar or out of the chalice?
Right out of the jug, right up out of the deal. Pulled the jug down and took a couple big swigs, and he walked in the door and caught us.
And what did he say?
We were in trouble.
Yeah.
There was a lot of Hail Marys, Our Fathers, and if I remember right, we were altar boys for about the next 6 months. Every morning.
Every morning.
Yes.
So, and you were how old?
Oh, that time it would have been, what, 8, 9, something of that nature, I would guess. Yeah,
and did you like the taste?
Of course.
Okay. Now, had you had communion yet?
Oh, yes.
Okay, so you knew what wine tastes like.
Oh, I knew what it
through communion.
Like. Yeah.
All right. Do you still believe, or do you believe? I guess I should ask that. And I might be wrong on this, but don't the Catholics believe that once that wine has been consecrated, that an alcoholic can drink it and not get drunk?
No, I've never heard that.
You've never heard that?
No,
okay.
I don't think that's true.
Okay, so when did the next drink come? When did you begin to drink on a regular basis?
Well, I always, in looking back at my life, I'd say probably at about 16 years old.
Okay.
High school. Going out and hanging out around the back of bowling alley, and always found somebody to buy a beer, buy a 6-pack or so.
Sure.
And drank at that point. Never was arrested. We'd have back, thinking back, and as well as I do, back in the 50s and the 60s, it was different than it is today.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And
you're fine drunk back then. The cop put you in the back seat, took you home.
Yeah, or he just dumped it out on the parking lot and sent you home.
Yeah, who did we have in here the other day that talked about that he got in trouble with the police, and the big thing was they just dumped the beer out, and then and that hurt. Yeah. That hurt the most.
Yeah, you didn't have a lot of money to buy it.
Well, and it sounded like your father drank.
Yeah, it's interesting. In my childhood, as a young child, my father would come home in the summertime, and my mother would watch us, my brother and I, in the summer, of course. I had the typical Leave It to Beaver family.
Okay.
Great family. Okay. Mother stayed home. Dad went to work. He was a construction worker. we'd get in trouble through the day, and my mother would holler at us as we went out the back door that we had to come home because my father would be home for dinner.
Okay.
And when he did come home, it was great. We'd come back about 5 o'clock, and we'd go in, and he'd be there, and we would go in, and he'd say, "Go get me a beer." And so we'd go to the ice box back then, because that's what it was called rather than refrigerator today or whatever. But and we'd bring him a beer. Now, there was a rite of passage, and I'd be old enough to use the church key.
Sure.
Because there was no pop tops.
Right.
You know, and my brother, he was too young. Well, you open him the beer, you always got a swig.
Sure.
And to this day, I can taste that.
Wow.
It tastes so good and so cold.
Yeah.
It was just great. And the second rite of passage was you got to light his cigarette.
Oh.
So you get the match and you'd light it. There was no lighter, and you just sit there and whiff and smell the smoke coming up off that cigarette.
Yeah.
You know, and this. I mean, and we had a great family. But one real quick story: we would sit down to dinner. My mother always wrote on the back of a chalkboard on the stairs going upstairs all the things we'd done bad during the day because she couldn't catch us. And when we get home, we'd all sit around the dinner table, typical dinner table, say grace, and have dinner. And everything would be cool until my little brother sitting next to me would say, "Dad, aren't you going to look at the blackboard?" And I would commence to start hitting on him and beating on him and kicking him. He'd start screaming. My dad would go in and look at the blackboard, and this all is really leading to something really cool right now. But and he would come in, he'd say, "Okay, Denny, you're first." Okay, and he'd take his belt off. And I'd go over and be across his knee. Now, my brother's screaming because he knew he was next. My sister's screaming because she hated to see anybody get beat.
Right.
The dog is howling because it was a little terrier that just hated to see anything going on. And my mother's hollering at all of us to shut up. Now, it's in the 50s, so all the windows are open. Okay. And that is being broadcast throughout the neighborhood. But it was happening in several homes, I'm sure, you know.
Sure.
The reason I bring that up is because I grew up in a very functional home back then. Today, that would be a very dysfunctional home.
Yeah.
I mean, I could have been sent to a foster home. My dad could have, had
Gone to
charges.
prison.
Yeah,
Yep.
I mean, all of that. But in the 50s and the 60s, that was a functional home. And the beauty of it was, I loved my dad dearly until the day he died. And after dinner, after we went through that, we did the dishes. And we wrestled on the floor, and it was traded off with love. So there was, and quite frankly, that was the only way to get our attention.
Right.
Okay. We got another couple swigs of beer.
Yeah.
And then, but it was traded off with love. And he taught us authority, respect for that authority. So I tell people I grew up in a very functional home, but in today's standards, a very dysfunctional.
Well, and you know as well as I do, and that's the problem with the youth of today, is they're not, they don't appreciate nor respect authority.
That's exactly.
They are entitled, they believe, and we can't touch them.
Mm-hmm. And I had to work. I worked, I carried papers, I shoveled walks. My father would say, if you want something, if you want your hair cut a certain way, you go earn the money. If not, I'll cut it down the basement.
Yeah.
If you want a certain pair of tennis shoes, you go earn the money, you can have it. He also had a term as we got into high school, and we can talk about that later, but he broke my plate.
He broke your plate.
That was a term. He said it, he'd say, you might as well work now and learn how to make money, because when you turn 18, I'm going to break your plate.
Oh.
What that meant is you didn't come home for dinner. You could come home for dinner, but you didn't eat here anymore.
Yeah. You didn't live there. You didn't stay there. You
were
weren't
gone.
Yeah.
And he taught me that responsibility and that work ethic to do that. And thank God he did. I worked. I knew how to work. I worked a part-time job. I drank at night, but I worked to get money to drink, of course.
Did you drink at home?
No.
No.
Oh, no.
Not beyond the sip.
No. Not until you're of age. Not beyond the sip. I mean, there was a point that sip went away, and then
Sure.
There was.
Was it 18 back then?
Yeah, it was 18, as a matter of fact. Because when I was in the service in the Navy, I remember I went over to. I was 28. No, I was 19. I think it was 21, though, man. I think it really was, because I went over to Hawaii, and the age was a year younger, and I could drink legally over there back then. But that's another era.
Yeah.
But No, and I helped him make wine in the basement. My father always had a crock in the basement. He made beet wine.
Beet wine.
Beet.
Out of beets.
Sugar beets.
Okay.
And I'd go down there, my brother and everything, and we'd have a little sampling straw.
Sure.
Big crock.
Yeah.
And I'd watch him sip that. Oh, and pretty soon I got to sip a few sips. And he says, and I found out that was pretty good. So I had friends over, see, and I'd say, you got to try this, So anyway, yeah, we drank. I was an Irish Catholic family.
Right.
You drank.
Did you ever see your father out of control because of alcohol?
Never.
Drunk?
Never.
Okay. Mother neither?
No. Relatives, I saw relatives at occasions that would, and my dad would break up, a couple uncles that were fighting or something, and he'd kick them out the door.
Yeah.
So you don't act that way.
I'm just curious. Do you remember the brand of beer that your father drank when you were a young'un, taking the sip and sitting on? Sitting on his lap.
Falstaff.
Falstaff.
Oh, I remember quite well.
I figured you were either going to say Falstaff, Schlitz, or Hams.
Falstaff.
Okay.
Yeah, I knew it well.
I remember those names. Yeah.
Yeah.
My father was a big beer guy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was in the Hams beer bear on the commercials and the little Indian going down with the
From
canoe.
the land of sky blue waters.
Do. Dennis is our guest today, and he's 13 months sober, thanks to Powell CDC. And so far, you listened to your story, and things went smooth. You joined, what'd you say, the Navy?
Yes.
And were you in Vietnam?
I was.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what was it like being in Vietnam?
Well, let me go back just slightly ahead of that.
Okay.
I met Terry, the love of my life, when I was a junior in high school. She went to Hoover. I went to Dowling. And I asked her to marry me just before I left for active duty.
Okay.
And her father said at the time, asked her mother, "Are you going to let her marry that Catholic?" and so, and then he says, "Oh, don't worry about it. He's leaving to go in the Navy, and he'll find things over there you never seen before, and it'll be over." So I left. Went to Pearl Harbor. I was home ported at Pearl Harbor in Hawaii. And,
Give me a year.
1969, 1970.
Okay. All right.
And graduated from Dowling in 69.
Okay.
And as I tell people, too, I'm long in the tooth and short on sobriety. So, so I called Terry. I was really drunk one night, and it was about December around Christmas, and I was looking for, anxious to be home and missing home, homesick.
You in Pearl Harbor at this time?
I was at Pearl in the enlisted man's club, and I called her, and I says, "You come on out and we'll get married." And she says, "You're drunk." And I said, "Yeah." And she says, "Well, call me back tomorrow night when you're sober." The next night, I was in the same club, same phone booth, and I called her back. And I says, "Well, what's the choice? What's the answer?" She says, "I'll be there, my parents will be there, and your parents will be there, and we'll get married on February 21st. Well, what I'd failed to tell you is, in the first phone call, I told her I was broke, and I needed $1,000.
Okay.
And in the second phone call, I said, "Okay, that's great. Have you got the $1,000?
Yeah.
And a lot of people kid me to this day that I was one of the few people they knew that got a dowry when I got married.
I love it.
So on February 21st, just the weekend before that, her parents, my parents, and her came out, and we were married in a Quonset hut at Pearl Harbor by the Fleet priest, Catholic priest, who went with me on Westpac to Vietnam.
Wow.
And
That's,
but it was a great time. She's the love of my life for 42 years.
Still married after all these years.
Absolutely.
How many kids?
None.
None?
None.
None. All right. Dennis is our guest. Life's good. Married 21st of February in 1970. Getting ready to go over to Vietnam. Married the love of his life. Still together. So why did he need to be sober? Why did he need to get sober? This is what his life used to be like. When we come back, more The Story of Dennis. Live on Recovery Monday, brought to you by Powell CDC on KTIA, Iowa.
A woman who struggles daily with diabetes and her memory. A boy whose headaches keep him out of school. A mother who one morning discovers a lump. A girl whose condition defies diagnosis. You come to us because you need answers, but you also need more. You need understanding of what you're going through. You need comfort. You need to be treated as an individual, not a condition. You need to be included in your own care. You are the point of everything we do. That's why we're changing to Unity Point Health. It's a model of care that will help us work better together, where the physician who knows you best takes the lead, coordinating your care through every step, from the hospital to specialists to rehabilitation to health services in the home and in the community, to making sure the treatments are effective. By working as a team, we surround you with care, helping you manage your health and your conditions, guiding you to making better choices and living a healthier life. The point of Unity is you. Unity Point Health.
Hey, psst. Let me let you in on a little secret. You ready? Always try to do business with people, not places. Especially if you seek honest Christian business people. And when it comes to my car, I really need to trust who's working on it. Now, my family is so blessed. A few years ago, we found a family-owned automobile repair shop that operates as a Christian business also. Open, honest, reliable, trustworthy. It's AMCO on Hickman Road in front of Kmart. And it's a family-owned Christian operating business. This family treats your car as if it was their car. Everything from oil changes to transmission repair and everything in between. So the next time you feel the need to be at peace with your choice of who you can trust with your car, give AMCO on Hickman a chance to serve you. And tell them Max sent you.
If Tom Coates from Consumer Credit of America was your personal webmaster, Tom would filter out all bad debt emails. If Tom was your mailman, you'd never get any debt reduction junk mail. If Tom Coates was a lineman, he'd block any phone calls offering to reduce your credit card debt.
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America, and we're still your best choice for credit counseling. We're local, we're accountable, and we can do more. You make the call when the time's right for you.
When it comes to competition, there really is none for Consumer Credit of America.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast 1 Live. We're back on a Recovery Monday, brought to you by Powell CDC. I'm J. Michael McCoy. If I haven't told you lately, thanks for listening. I love this job. Couldn't do it without you. Right here on 99.3 KTIA, powered by webcast1live.com. Bob Montserrat, the cat in the hat, watching the chat. Did you have any interesting chatters on there?
Army Brad's on.
Army Brad. Well,
Yeah.
Army Brad's my buddy. Tell Army Brad, don't forget Bible study this Wednesday morning. We missed him last week. Ryan is producing, and my guest is Dennis. Dennis is a 1969 Dowling graduate, went off to Vietnam, married the love of his life. What, Terry? Terry, okay. Terri?
Why?
Okay. On the 21st day of February in 1970, and then you went off to Vietnam.
Yes.
And how long were you over there?
Well,
How many tours did you do?
one tour in off the coast of Vietnam on a destroyer,
Okay.
and there were Terry and I lived in Hawaii for 6 months prior to going.
Okay.
And it was, in looking back, it was probably one of the best times of our life. We had very little. I made $200 a month and spent that on rent. I had
Okay.
to request permission to get married because I was an enlisted man.
Okay.
At any rate, I left, brought her back to Des Moines, and went over to on a gun line in Vietnam on a destroyer.
I don't know what a gun line is.
It's when you cruise up and down the coast and you real close,
Okay.
and you fire inland and you give support to the Marines and to the Army
Okay.
inland. I can honestly say that there were times I never thought I would ever see Des Moines again.
Really?
I used to write, and we still have letters like this, that I would write letters and tell Terry to look up at the moon, cup her hands and look at the moon at night. And that that same night, maybe I would look at the moon. And that was the only connection we had. Unlike today's military, back then you wrote a letter and you might get it back, an answer back in 3 weeks, 6 weeks.
Yeah.
There was no instant. You couldn't call.
Right.
It was, So I saw a lot of war. Let's put it that way. And I saw a lot of things happen that I never thought I'd get back. And
Did you ever leave the ship?
I never left the ship on shore in Vietnam.
Okay.
For that, to answer you there.
Good.
Came close one time. We blew up an ammo barge coming down the coast, and they were people, Vietnamese, out in the water, and they asked for us, volunteers, to go take prisoners, and I was one that was got volunteered, you might say. That would have been the closest. But again, God was looking out for me, and we got a call for general quarters, and they abandoned that mission, and we went back to firing.
Okay.
So it never happened.
Okay.
But in all of this, I've learned that God was looking out for me. And I didn't realize it then, but I know it today because I wouldn't be here. There were too many times that someone had their hand on my shoulder guiding me back to Des Moines for a reason. So
when did you get back to Des Moines?
Oh, it had to have been about 1973. 74. I do remember, and Terry, she says that my memory's not that good anymore, but I vividly recall landing in Des Moines, and at that time you walked off the plane and down across the ramp, the tarmac, and I remember smelling the air, and I said, "Do you smell that?" And she said, "What do you smell?" I said, "I smell the fields. I smell corn," and it had to have been in the fall.
Sure.
And I said, "That's the most beautiful smell I've ever smelled." And I said then, I will never leave Des Moines again. I'd seen a lot of the world. I went from being a kid, redneck, a wet behind the ears kid, to seeing things in this world that the average man never saw.
Right.
And again, somebody was watching out.
Now, I want to backtrack for just a second. When you're on the ship, is there alcohol available?
No.
So there was no drinking?
No.
Okay. Smoking, probably.
Oh, yeah.
Did you smoke cigarettes at that time?
Yeah, sure did.
Okay. So it would be hard for you at that time, 1973, to think you have any issues or problems with alcohol.
I didn't think I did.
Yeah, you'd just gone basically 3-4 years without a drop.
At that time, that was... drinking is what you did when you hit port, when I hit Subic Bay, Philippines, or Hong Kong, or Taiwan, or whenever, Japan. That's what you did.
Yeah.
But I never even considered I had a problem with it. It never hindered anything that I was doing at that time.
Do you recall seeing someone or thinking of someone who was on the ship with you who maybe did have a problem?
Oh, yes. It's amazing today when you think back and what I know today from working the program and everything, that I had a chief machinist mate, and he lived aboard ship. He was a lifer, 20 years or more. And he says, "Where else can I get a job like this?" He said, "They pay me, they give me all the, and he always wore military issue, right down to his underwear. I get food, I get health care, and I get money to drink." And he would pay people to stand a watch the night before we got underway, just so he could go in and get loaded. Now, whether he had some aboard that he snuck, and it was there if you wanted to get it.
Yeah.
I don't recall particularly, but in hindsight, I look back and think, yeah, he had a problem.
Dennis is our guest today. He is a 69 graduate of Dowling High School, a Vietnam vet up till 1974, and as of 13 months ago, a graduate of Powell CDC. So tell me about your first incident that you can recall after you've been home from Vietnam, in which somebody said to you or you thought, that was a stupid thing to do, and that was because of alcohol. I mean, did you have an OWI? Did you anything like that?
I have never been arrested. I have never been to jail. Kind of ironic because the last 3 years I've done nothing but work on prisons and jails. I can honestly say that through my career in the mechanical business, which I started at companies here in town, I even started the Leiden Corporation, my own company, and in 1983, 84, and I sold it in 1996. Drinking was a part of my doing business. I mean, I was a contractor.
Sure.
I was a sheet metal worker to start out.
Okay.
And I was at the Waldinger Corporation and the likes. And drinking is something you just did.
Yeah.
I used to make my own liqueurs at home. I mean, in our home on 62nd, when Terry and I were there. There were times when I would get intoxicated. I could count on one hand the number of times I can think I was passed out drunk.
Really?
And Dr. Weiss at the time over at Powell said that he says, yeah, that's a pure sign of a functioning alcoholic. I said, at the end of my drinking, I could drink a fifth a day easy and fully function.
Yeah.
I mean, I could have just before walking in here right now, and you probably wouldn't have known it. But things were deteriorating. And through that career of companies, when I sold the company, and I told you that our paths crossed a little bit, but was the start, okay? And it was the start of losing self-control, self-will. Everything I'd done up to that point in my life was my way. I even kidded that Frank Sinatra's song, My Way, was my theme song.
Was your theme song. There you go.
Because everything I did in my life up to that point was my way. And if it wasn't my way, it was the highway.
All right.
Terry would say to me, she says, man, she says, there's only one way to do it, and that's your way. And I'd say, has it done you wrong? I mean, I made good money. I built a company. I made real good money, six-figure numbers.
Was it that way at home, too? The highway or my way?
Pretty much.
Pretty much, okay. And she was okay with that?
Well, yeah, and even...
It worked for her.
Even the day I sold the company, a guy I was doing business with here in Des Moines said to me, he said he was going to go into the sheet metal business, and that's what I did. And I said, well, did I do 75% of my business with you as a mechanical contractor? And so anyway, we put together a deal and sold it. And Terry didn't know about that at the time. I mean, she worked in the office. She helped me start it from scratch. It was her baby too. And when I told her I was going to sell it, she was just madder than hops. She said, you just divorced me and killed our firstborn. And I said, you'll get over it. And I said, from now on, you're retired. You can do what you want. And sure enough, a year later, she says, you always made the right decision. And at the time, it was. She went through cancer in 93, just before we sold it. Went through the floods in 93 and wiped us out. I rebuilt it. So it was all self-will and pride. Okay, and my drinking was the same way. But when I lost it, when I sold it, all of a sudden, it wasn't me anymore. I went back to working for somebody else. And I went into marketing and business development, wine and dine.
In the same industry?
In the construction industry.
Okay.
Different firms.
All right. So now you're out there trying to get business for these firms.
Exactly.
And you're buying big fancy steak dinners at 801 grand, and you're buying bottles of wine and beer and
drinking on other people's tab.
Oh my gosh.
And
what was it, just an evening event, or had it become an all-day event?
Oh, it was evening to start, and then it was going out to lunch and not going back,
3 martini lunch.
Oh, I could spend $100 an afternoon at Skip's easy. Easy.
Yeah.
And the bartenders would say, and the barmaids would say, Dennis, you sit up here all afternoon and into the evening, and I've never seen you drunk. I don't know how you do it. And I'd be carrying on. I'd be the center of, what's going on. And it was killing me.
But if somebody put a breathalyzer in front of you You would have blown drunk. You just didn't act drunk.
That's right.
Why do you think that was? You just had built this incredible tolerance of alcohol?
I don't know. I mean, other than when I went back, I went into Powell in 2007, late December 10th of 2007, my birthday. I told Terry, I said, Terry, there's a problem. I'm blacking out. I don't remember. She knew. She says,
Yeah.
She says, I come home and you started something on the stove and you're up in bed asleep and it's burning.
Yeah.
So things got worse and worse and worse.
So you certainly put yourself in a position to get an OWI. You just never did.
Hundreds.
Yeah.
Again, somebody's watching over us.
Yeah.
God was there. Right or wrong, he was there. He was there so many times. Even when Terry went through her cancer and everything, he was there. What I've come to know today is there was a reason. There was a reason for everything good and bad that happened. But today, I know what to thank for that.
Have you been able to thread that together?
Oh, absolutely.
Have you? Okay, now we're coming up against a break. But
yeah.
when we come back, I want to hear about that thread. At some point, and we're going to have about 20 minutes left.
Mm-hmm.
No, we're not. No, we're going to have 15, about 12. Mm-hmm. But at some point, I want to hear what finally drove you to get help.
That's where we're at.
Because it sounded like God had really been taking good care of you, in spite of yourself.
In spite of myself.
All right. Dennis
Yes,
is
sir.
our guest, and Bob Montserrat, the Cat in the Hat. Ryan is producing. I'm J. Michael McCoy. Thanks for listening. Love this job. Couldn't do it without you. On 99.3 KTIA, Iowa. From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast 1 Live.
I'm Brian Leach, owner and general manager of Service Legends. I brought along a couple of the home comfort heroes.
Hi, I'm Tammy Wells.
I am Nick Wondershad.
I'm administrative mmanager
I'm the senior technician.
from Service Legends.
It seems like every good thing, when you feel it to the bone that it's good, there's a lot of hard work put behind it. I don't think that you can fake it and have it turn out good.
You know, if we seem like, okay, that's just weird, it's just a furnace, why would you believe so deeply in a furnace? It's not just that, you know, we want to show the world that you can have good service.
Yeah, I mean, it's your home.
You know, it's built into our daily trainings, it's built into our culture, that we're gonna do whatever it takes to have each client say they love us, period.
That's why we spend all the hours in the training that we do. And if we guarantee it's gonna be a good experience for you, or else it's free, what type of work do you think we're gonna do?
There is a guarantee.
Temperature selection guarantee, fixed right or it's free guarantee, comfort guarantee, best value guarantee. All of these guarantees hold us accountable to ensuring that we exceed your expectations. And if for whatever reason we'd fail and we can't make it right, we guarantee all of those guarantees with a 100% money back guarantee.
I mean, if you don't think that your technician can fix it right, are you gonna say that to a client? No.
You don't have to worry about having a technician come to your house.
We drug test, background check all of our team members. We put safe people in your home. Each and every one of our service techs, 400 hours a year in training.
You tell it the minute they walk in the door. They know what they're doing, they've done their homework, and they actually truly care about what you want.
Because at the end of the day, you're the person that makes sure I have a job.
They're gonna be listening. They're gonna wanna know what your challenges are. Then they're gonna come and give you options, and you get to choose.
If I'm there to help and I make it easy and painless, I did my job right that day.
Well, when it comes to your comfort, safety, and your family, you know, you don't necessarily go buy the most expensive, but you get the most bang for your buck.
Oh, it's worth it, because there's a lot of people that will find a way to get it to work right now and then leave and then come back, charge you again, and the cycle just repeats itself. So when I'm out there looking at the furnace, I want to find why it failed today. How can we change the part today with something that you're not going to have to worry about? Is it worth changing the part today? I mean, you can put a lot of money into a furnace. I can fix parts all day. There's good job security in that for me, but is it the right thing for you?
I get a lot of the phone calls of after the technicians are there. They're just in awe. They're like, wow, you guys are great. I mean, I don't even know what to say. You guys are great. Everything you did was perfect. It was great.
Keep going though, I like this.
Just give us a try. I'm gonna take all the risk.
I've got the time to make this right. I've got the support to make it right.
Just check us out.
And if you don't see the value in what we do,
I mean, fixed right or it's free or 100% money back.
enough said.
It's 22 minutes before the top of the hour, live at the top, Salem Radio Network News, and then Michael Mudloff with True Blue here on 99.3 KTIA. Our guest is Dennis, and he is a 69 graduate of Dowling, then went to Vietnam, married the love of his life in 1970. They are still just like newlyweds. And we are now to the 10th of December, which is, that's your birthday.
That's correct.
That's tomorrow.
That's tomorrow.
But we're going back to 2007, so we're going
That's
back
right.
6 years.
That's right.
Okay, tell me what happened.
On that day, 6 years ago, things had just come to a head. I was passing out. I was blacking out. The drinking had gotten way out of hand, and I went to Terry the night before, and I said, "There's something wrong. I can't function this way. I need help." And matter of fact, on that day, I went to my family doctor, who immediately contacted Powell, a Dr. Weiss there, and I went in and saw him, and I blew, I don't know, .02. So I'd been drinking. I'd quit drinking at 4 o'clock that morning. I mean, it was my last drink.
Wow.
And I went into inpatient. I spent a period of inpatient that time, and I went through outpatient, and I graduated, and I went to continuing care. I went to no meetings. I got no sponsor. I
Didn't work
did
the
it
program.
my way.
Yeah.
I did. I thought, I can whip this, man. I've been through treatment and everything, and I've stayed sober now. So I went out, and of course, I started doing more experimenting.
Right.
And
For those of you, experimenting means seeing if I could seeing if I can drink like a normal person.
Yeah, more research.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I started drinking again, and then in about October of 2012, I'm going to say, well, it was September of 2012, was the second time I went in. And I did the same thing. I thought, man, this has got out of hand quick. It only took a couple, 3 years. Now it's out of hand again.
And tell me what out of hand looks like.
Drinking all day. Getting up in the middle of the night, 5 times in the middle of the night, and going into the bathroom. Hiding booze all over the place. You know, having booze in the car. Leaving a meeting, going to a meeting and drinking before I go to the meeting. Drinking right as soon as I get out of the meeting. Going out of town to drink, and yet functioning.
So what
Through all
you
of
said you're hiding booze. So what's Terry saying?
I don't think that she really knew it.
I mean, she dropped the foot. Did she ever say that's it? No. One more and you're done?
No.
Nope.
No.
Okay.
Never.
So you were hiding booze from God?
Yeah. I'm hiding it because I didn't want her to see it. I didn't want her to know it.
Yeah.
Again, I didn't want her to see me doing something that I disapproved of, even in myself. But my self-will and pride wouldn't let me until it was so bad. Okay. Then on that second time, now I say second because
September
there's a reason.
12.
Yes. I went back to Powell. And I went back through inpatient. I went through detox again. I went through inpatient again. I went back into outpatient. Oh, but I could do outpatient weekends. Oh, that was cool, because then I could drink some more.
Yeah.
And even when I was outpatient days, I calculated out that I could stop drinking at a certain time in the afternoon after I got outpatient, and then still blow double zeros when I got up there the next morning. And then at noon, leave and go down to the car and drive up to Union Park, take a couple swigs, and get back there and sit in community that afternoon and lie.
What was your drink of choice?
Vodka.
Vodka. Okay, so nobody ever smelled it on you.
Well, no, and a little mouthwash took care of that. So,
yeah, but you know what I heard in a meeting one time, that a guy said, his wife said, I knew when you started drinking because you began having the freshest breath ever. Because before, he wasn't using mouthwash. Yeah. Now he starts drinking again, he's using mouthwash.
Yeah, and more cologne.
And we're, okay.
Oh, splash it on me.
Okay.
Make it smell good.
Okay.
Terry knew, of course. So anyway, on a Sunday, I graduated from Powell for the second time. Okay. The following Wednesday, I was back. That was November 7th. Third time. November 7th was a Wednesday. I walked back in the door upstairs, and Dr. Weiss and them said, I don't know what we're going to do with you. And he says, I said, oh, I relapsed. He said, you've been relapsing. Matter of fact, I was relapsing the whole time I was in outpatient.
Sure.
Of course.
Yeah.
And I'd walk in there and just lie, just be the,
Yeah.
because that's what we do.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And here's what happened. I walked back downstairs and I walked back into that treatment in that room, and all the people that were there when I was outpatient were still there, and I had to face them. And I sat there and I felt.
Yeah, that was 2 months later.
I felt a point of humiliation. This was 3 days. I mean, I'm talking Sunday to Wednesday.
Okay.
Okay, and they had just rubbed my coin on Sunday, saying how great I was doing. And this was my bottom, because my bottom was different than other people, than some. It wasn't in prison. It wasn't because of somebody dying. It was the defeat of myself. My self-will and my pride was beaten for the last time. And I had to just say, I can't do this. And at the same time, I felt humility for the first time, really felt it. Because they opened their arms and said, you're welcome back. You did the right thing. You're here.
Yeah.
You're not still out there.
How would you define humility or being humble?
Humble is in my, for me to be humble is to accept things that happen to me and to be thankful and genuine. I mean, the people that showed me that humility, that welcome back. I went to that Friday meeting after up there, and all these men that were there welcomed me back. That was on a Wednesday, on a Friday. Now here's where it really turned.
Okay.
That was the bottom. I graduated again on a Friday several weeks later, and because I just went through a relapse part. I left Powell. I got in to pick up with 2 guys, and I drove to the retreat up in Boone.
Mm-hmm. Men's retreat.
Didn't know where I was going. All I know is I couldn't do it my way. I had a sponsor, and I had meetings set up, and I'd been to some meetings for the week or so before. Drove up there, and at night, it was black, pitch black, dark, and I was the old guy, and I stumbled around in the dark, went into a cabin to sleep. I mean, I bought a sleeping bag, and my idea of roughing it was a hotel room without a mini bar in it.
Sure.
Okay?
Sure.
And here I was. I walk in here with 350 alcoholic men. and a gentleman said, leave your expectations at the door if you're here for the first time. And I did. Mm-hmm. That weekend, I had a spiritual awakening. I came away from that weekend a different man because I saw something. We went through step studies, and I sat there, and I saw something a bunch of men had that I didn't have, but I wanted. Mm-hmm. And I came back, and when I walked back in the house that next Sunday, Terry met me at the door, and she says, you're a different man, Dennis. And that was the change. That's what happened, okay? And this last year has been the most beautiful year of my life because I put that self-will aside, and I accepted God's will and a higher power and the power of other men in the program that is just unbelievable. And the serenity. I know I work every day, and I don't tell people what to do anymore. I decide I don't argue with people that know more than I do. And that's quite a few people in this world today, But it's so nice. It's so serene.
Well, it says in the promises that you will know the word serenity.
Oh, and you will.
Yeah.
And it's just unbelievable what the study and the working with other people. As I stated earlier, I go up to Powell, and I sit up there, and I'll see people come in, and there'll be an inpatient. And a phrase I live by is God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason.
Yeah.
He wants us to use it proportionately.
When we come back, Dennis is going to share with us what his life is like, and also a card that his love of his life, Terry, gave to him on his first sobriety birthday. That's next, live here on Recovery Monday.
A father who is headed toward another heart attack. A woman who struggles daily with diabetes and her memory. A boy whose headaches keep him out of school. A mother who one morning discovers a lump. A girl whose condition defies diagnosis. You come to us because you need answers, but you also need more. You need understanding of what you're going through. You need comfort. You need to be treated as an individual, not a condition. You need to be included in your own care. You are the point of everything we do. That's why we're changing to Unity Point Health. It's a model of care that will help us work better together, where the physician who knows you best takes the lead, coordinating your care through every step, from the hospital to specialists to rehabilitation to health services in the home and in the community, to making sure the treatments are effective. By working as a team, we surround you with care, helping you manage your health and your conditions, guiding you to making better choices and living a healthier life. The point of Unity is you. Unity Point Health.
If you choose to obey the power of sin, it leads to death. If you choose to obey obedience, it leads to righteousness.
Forgiveness is just the beginning of life in Christ. God wants us to live for Him now.
And because of Jesus Christ, the gospel was preached, and you and I are blessed today because of Abraham. Did you know that? We're blessed.
Experience Truth, 99.3 FM.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast 1 Live.
All right, it's 10 minutes before the top of the hour. Top of the hour, we'll have Salem Radio Network News. And then after that, Pastor Michael Mudloff from Westkirk Presbyterian Church. Special surprise. What'd you say, Maddie? 4:15 or 4:30? 4:15 this afternoon, a special edition of the Fallon Forum with Ed Fallon. So just stick around on Webcast 1 Live. That is not on the radio. That is only on Webcast 1 Live. If you stick around on 99.3, you'll hear Pastor Michael Mudloff. Dennis is our guest today. Now, you said that you enjoy listening to 99.3. Who's your favorite preacher teacher?
You are, obviously.
Oh, come on. No, seriously, who?
No, I don't have any particular favorites.
I cannot get enough of Ravi. Yeah. Zachariah.
Oh.
Did I say that right? Ravi Zachariah?
That doesn't sound right to me, is it?
I think so.
Okay.
I'll be honest with you. I just started listening, so it's the kind of...
Oh, I just love that guy. Just love that guy. Yeah. And not to get too Jesus freak on anybody, but once you have that spiritual experience, you begin to hear the Word of God differently. Mm-hmm. Especially, you're a Catholic, I was an Episcopalian, so we were used to God being in segments, in liturgy, or in the epistle of the day, or the gospel of the day. And even the, I call them sermons. In the Catholic Church, they're homilies.
Yeah.
Okay. Even those
sermons.
Are, short, and you know, I bet most of the time you just daydream through them, right?
Absolutely.
But you don't now, do you?
No, they say the truth.
Yeah.
And they tell you how to live. They tell me how to live. And it's amazing how if you I open my heart to it and listen.
Yeah, and it's so difficult. And brother, you and I are on similar paths because I have friends who I love them. They're wonderful people, but they're pagans, and they see this difference in me, and they can only explain it by the difference in my actions, because I can't explain it to them. All I can say is Jesus mugged me. Okay. I was one way for 50 years, and one day Jesus mugged me, and life just changes. And like you said a minute ago, serenity. I didn't know what that was. My wife used to tell me, I so hard pray for you to feel peace. Well, there was no peace in my life. There was constant turmoil and adversity, and I didn't know how to do it any other way than that. Yeah. And my definition of hope was a wish without a plan. Now I understand what hope is. You know, it's just incredible.
What always amazes me is miracles that happen all the time. And I see a miracle every night when I'm at a meeting. Mm-hmm. And it's not that the miracles weren't happening. It's just that my heart's opened up to see them.
Yeah.
They always were there, but now I see it happening. I can see it happening between two individuals.
Yeah.
And when you look back in your life, you could see it happen even though you didn't know it.
Oh, I know it was happening.
Mm-hmm.
And the beauty is, even the bad things, I can be thankful for, because that's what put me here today. Mm-hmm. And there's a reason for me to be here today, sitting right here today. Mm-hmm. There's a reason why I'm here, and where I'll be in the next minute. But it's only today. I don't worry about tomorrow.
Did you, 15 months ago, did you know what God's purpose for your life was?
Absolutely not.
Do you know today?
Absolutely do.
And it is what?
It is to serve my fellow beings, my fellow alcoholics.
Yeah.
It's to do the right thing today. The right thing today. And that's harder than some people think. And not what somebody else thinks, but it's also to do what God tells me to do. And I don't always like it.
Yeah.
It isn't always what I want.
Yeah.
But it's what's going to have to be done. And so that's what I have to do.
Well, that's what it is when you humble yourself. Then he can move within you or anybody.
Yeah.
And it's so they'll say, and it's so simple, because it's surrendering all of yourself in order to have all of yourself.
Yeah.
And great strength comes from surrender, and that's amazing.
Yeah, because when you and I grew up, surrender was a bad thing.
Oh.
Yeah, you didn't want to surrender.
Oh,
only the
weak.
losers.
You were weak.
Yeah.
I was a four-eyed kid anyway.
Yeah.
Four glasses.
I remember a couple of things that I learned in my program was I used to know the difference between right and wrong. Mm-hmm. And wrong was after I kept pushing you, you'd either say, push me again and I'm gone, or I'd learn the real hard way and you'd say, I'm out of your life. Mm-hmm. So wrong was even relative. Bob's wrong would be different than Dennis's wrong.
Right.
Now I say I look for the difference between right and almost right. And Jesus is right there in the almost right.
All the time.
Yeah. And the other thing I learned that I thought was so powerful is I always believed in God. You and I, you're Catholic, I was Episcopalian, no doubt about it.
Yep.
This program taught me that God believed in me. Mm-hmm. Didn't know that before.
No.
Yeah.
Before, God and religion was in my head.
Right. Religion. Today, my higher power, which I choose to call God, is in my heart. Right.
There's a huge distance between my brain and my heart.
Yeah.
I just have to let my heart do the thinking for me.
Yeah, and people who have never had a spiritual awakening or most people have had a spiritual experience. Even agnostics or atheists have had a spiritual experience. Yeah. But once you've had a spiritual awakening, just like in the Bible says, the scales from our eyes are lifted, and we can see things that were never, ever like that before. I often wonder if atheism, is that a word, is a mental disorder. Yeah. I mean, God created us to return to him, to know him, to honor our Creator. But yet there are some people who just seem to be shut off from it. It's not connected. Okay, you've got a beautiful card there that your bride of 40, how many years? 47?
42 years.
42 years gave you on your first sobriety birthday.
Yes, and I've had people say, what has happened? Well, my life has changed, and the last year has been unbelievable. And she gave me this I was going to Powell to the Celebrate Recovery to get my 1-year chip. It was back on November 7th, and she couldn't be there because she was ill at home. But before I left, she gave me this, and I'm going to read it. I'm going to get through it. Once I thought that the miracle of love was the greatest happiness we could know, but sharing the miracle of new life with you makes me feel even happier. And I love you in a new and wonderful way because of it. Now in script she wrote, the new life you are creating for us is truly remarkable, and I am so proud of you. Happy first birthday. Love always, Terry. That's what it's all about.
Yep.
That's for me, and I couldn't do it for her.
Right.
I had to do it for me.
Right.
I had to get myself sober and my life straightened out. So being an alcoholic was a symptom. I had to live life on life's terms and learn how to do it and under the right way. And when I did, the craving for alcohol is gone.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely.
God took it away.
Oh yeah.
It is gone. I could sit in a room and there's times Terry will say to me, she says, doesn't all these people bother you drinking? I says, no. I said, did I act like that? And she says, you sure did. Yeah. But
we were
anyway.
at my wife's Christmas party on Friday night, and I would go to the bar and get her a glass of wine or whatever it was, and at one point I brought her something, and she said, I never thought, is that okay for you? And I said, honey, it doesn't faze me.
Yeah.
Doesn't faze me. Now, I bet, do you still go to Skips and eat dinner, though?
No.
No, right. Playmates and playgrounds.
No, it's too expensive for me.
Dennis, thank you very much for being here. We appreciate it. Powell CDC brings you this program. We'll be back next Monday. And until then, I ask you just one thing, please. Please, just one. Pray.